When I was a couple weeks short of my 70th birthday, I started thinking about my mother's mother, who lived to be 100, and her mother, who lived to be 102, and my father, who lived to be 90, longer than anyone we had ever heard of in his family. I began to think that maybe our generation could be the first to routinely live to be 100. When I talked about this at family dinner one night, my granddaughter, who was 5, said,
"What are you going to do for the next 30 years, Grandpa?"
Hello, I'm Dr. Janet Price.
And I'm Greg Kaloust. And we are Oldish. And this is our new podcast, Oldish.
If you're oldish or know someone who is, please join us every week for conversations amongst ourselves.
And our special guests.
About what it means to be oldish in the 21st century.
If you ever wonder whether you're getting old, you're oldish. What are you going to do for the next 30 minutes?
Hi, my name is Janet, and I am oldish.
Hi, my name is Greg, and I am oldish. And today we're meeting with my old friend, Dave Swarthout, who is also oldish. And Dave and I were just reconnecting. We haven't actually seen each other in 40 years. We can't remember the exact last time because that was 40 years ago. But Dave moved off and went to Alaska. We lived together in a big hippie house in Boston back in the late 70s. And shortly after that, Dave moved off to Alaska. We kept in touch a little bit. And then when Facebook happened, we kind of got more in touch. So we've had some communication back and forth. And we use Facebook, I think, like a lot of Facebook friends do. It's like I peek in every once in a while to see what Dave's up to. And Dave may peek in to see what I'm up to. And so we go on like that. So we want to welcome Dave Swarthout, who is currently somewhere. I don't actually know where you are, Dave.
I'm in Eugene, Oregon right now with my youngest child, my son, Thule, who's now, I say my youngest son, he's 38. So, he's not young. He's getting oldish himself slowly. So I'm in Eugene. I will go back to Alaska for the summer, which is what I've been doing for the past 12 years because I've lived mostly in Thailand. I come back just for the summers because I have family here, grandchildren, sister, brother, kids. And of course, my past in Alaska draws me back to Alaska because it's just such an amazing place. And of course, Thailand, while I love being there, it's a very, very hot season right now. It's in the high 90s, humidity. It's not my kind of weather. I survive, but I much prefer being cooler than hot and sweaty, frankly. So that's why I come back also.
So, Dave, I've begun to learn a little bit about your illustrious life to date. It's the first, so I want to hear more about that. But I have a question to kind of guide us: is do you feel oldish now at this moment in your life?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, because my body's given out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel different inside. Of course, I feel like everything's groovy. I enjoy the things I do. I love to play pickleball. I'm into photography big time. I've always been into photography, but not at this level where I'm actually out there using good equipment that I've bought and can take some absolutely killer photographs. So those are things I look forward to that. I really enjoy being in Thailand, doing birds, coming back here, visiting with my family, going to Alaska. So I kind of do a lot of commuting. I'm thinking about not going back to Alaska next year. I had a company there. I helped start a company about 27 years ago, a marine brokerage, which was a fabulous, fabulous partnership. It was a 4-way partnership. Never had a fight, ever had a disagreement between the 4 partners. Well, one of them died about 4 years ago. I retired. Another one retired. So now there's just one original person left. And I've sort of asked to be farmed, disintegrated out of it, so I don't have to be part of it anymore. And they did that for me. And now I'm like, oh my God, it was more important to me than I thought. It wasn't just the money.
Yeah.
But that makes going to Alaska harder if you don't have a little income up there because it's expensive. So I'm probably going to stop going up there. But anyway, I'm in Eugene. I love being here. It's a lovely, lovely town. And I look forward to going back to Thailand in the fall.
Well, it makes me think about your decision, everything you were just saying about Alaska, and wondering if that was an oldish or is an oldish moment, that all that, like, you weren't expecting the amount of feelings that you had around that and have. And another question I just want to throw in is, do you have a sense of when you might feel old? Or, like, do you think that word will ever feel descriptive for you, or do you feel like oldish is the path?
No, I'm definitely. I mean, oldish, with sort of a jocular term, but I definitely feel older than I used to be. I mean, like I said, I got a knee issue, my hip hurts. I mean, I got all these little issues that I was always just really strong, and I ran, bicycled. I bicycled 1,600 miles in New Zealand 10, 12 years ago. I mean, I was fit. Now I'm not so fit anymore. I really can't run anymore, and I don't have the stamina I used to have. So that's pretty obvious. I don't sleep well. There's little things like that. Otherwise, though, my health is great. I don't have any big mental issues or anything. I think the hardest thing for me in the past 4 or 5 years has been the political situation in the United States. We don't need to go there, but I got depressed in 2016, and I've stayed depressed a little bit because of what's happening, that I feel powerless to change. I mean, especially given that my situation where I'm all over the place, and and you can't escape that. Going to Thailand, big deal. We have the internet now. You can't escape the news, even though I try to do that as best I can, because it was depressing me. So other than that, I feel great. I don't have any other kind of issues except those physical ones that I think everybody has to suffer. When we're talking with Greg a minute ago about those trips he made up onto Everest, I simply could not. I can't do that. If I start going up a hill, half mile, I'm done. Can't do it anymore. And that's sad to me.
So there is some sadness about the oldish experience.
Yes, it ain't all good.
And even what you were saying about politics, I feel like for all of us who are oldish, we're experiencing this right now from the perspective of years and years and years of when we were, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, feeling hope, seeing change, and now watching it go backwards. There's just a perspective there that we have being oldish.
Well, the other thing too is that, as the more I've read and the more I've done investigating and looked around deeply, I don't like the United States politics at all. I mean, I don't like our foreign policy at all. I don't like our attitude that we think we can run things. I think it's really, really bad and detrimental to mankind, not to mention our own culture. I mean, we have a culture that we make weapons. That's what we do. We make weapons and we sell them. We promote indirectly or directly. We promote war and unrest. That's our business. That's what we do now. It's not all we do, but it's a major thing, and I just hate that.
And does this feel different for you at this point in your life than it did when you were younger? Around
absolutely.
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely. Of course, I grew up in the 50s. Things were nice in the 50s. I mean, people could own a home, they could own a car. My parents were very not rich at all. I mean, my dad was a blue collar worker. He was a union president. Unions had some power to change people's lives for the better, I think. I mean, maybe they went overboard. I don't know. Automobile workers were making big money, and that might have been overkill in some way. But and I feel like that workers don't have that kind of possibilities anymore. 2 people have to work to get a house, at least. So for me, same. And also, when I went to college, my college was paid for by my company. I worked for Xerox Corporation. I got a job at Xerox Corporation in 1963. They paid for my entire college. And how they did it was cool. If you got an A, they paid 100% of your tuition. A B, they paid 75%. A C, they paid half, which was the going rate at that time amongst companies, was they'd pay half your tuition. And if you got a D, they'd pay only 25%. So I did pretty well. I got good marks. I paid virtually nothing for a Bachelor of Science degree.
It's
And that was
amazing.
zero. And not only that, I could study on the job. My boss said, listen, it's exam time. You can close your office door and study, get a good grade and get your degree. That was what important. And that nobody does that anymore. Or companies don't do that.
Yeah, some of those companies were a bit more like family than what they are now. You know, that's changed. That changed quite a while ago. And you know, my father worked for the General Electric for 40 years, and it was like home. It was like family. He'd almost. It was probably less noisy than the family that he had at home. So he went into the office a lot.
I've seen video little montages of people, like when the steel mills closed in Buffalo and Lackawanna, that area, that end of Lake Erie was just heavy industrial steel mills, and they closed them down, I don't know, many years ago, and those guys were crying. They're like, oh my God, they've been there their whole lives. Their fathers had been there. And that's just the reality of globalization or what, I don't know exactly what, but to see how those people valued that job and that feeling of being part of something bigger than them, that they were willing to contribute their time to. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Make you think about the experience of community and how it feels like we've moved over time away from community. So the community that was created through the companies, the community that was created in our neighborhoods, which is one reason why Greg and I wanted to make this podcast, is bringing together the community of oldish people because we have this shared perspective and reality and history and the present of how life is and how it can be and how we think about it.
Yeah, and we're still in the process of defining what this word oldish means, Dave. It's kind of like we're not done yet. We're not elderly, right? So, and I think, comparing us to our parents' generations, our parents, I think many of them felt done when they were our age.
Yeah. No question. Yeah.
But at an age at which my father was retired and, pretty much wanted to sit around, you launched yourself off traveling and ended up in Thailand as an oldish expat. I think, you were.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that I wonder about.
If you had told me back when you and I were living in the same house there that I would live in at that time, well, actually not at that time, it was called Siam.
Yeah.
Before 1953, I think 53, they changed it to Thailand or somewhere in there. If you had told me I would be in Thailand and married to a Thai woman, I'd say, are you out of your goddamn mind?
Yeah.
But here it is. And I love it over there. And she's cool. So, one of the reasons they live over there, of course, is because it's cheap. Okay. I rent an entire house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, $250 a month.
Wow. Whoa. I'm packing.
250.
I am
250.
Packing.
My cell phone. I have a cell phone, and I have fiber to my house. Fiber internet to my house costs about $18 a month. My phone's about $13 a month, and that's unlimited. Unlimited internet, strong internet all over the country. Electricity's $8 or $9. It's just crazy. The only thing that is expensive over there is gasoline, which, as it should be, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Gasoline's expensive. Eyeglasses are expensive. Cameras and computers are not cheap. But everything else, any food you want to buy, I can eat from the street markets with my wife for $3 for a real nice dinner for 2. If I want to go fancy to a nice Japanese restaurant with 5 chefs, it's going to cost me more like $15, $18 for the 2 of us. That includes a beer for me. I mean,
Wow.
that's what, and you're talking, here's these guys up there, sushi chefs, $16 for a meal for two. Fantastic.
Wow, that's amazing. So
It's amazing.
the economically, the expat lifestyle is serving you well.
Oh yeah, over there. I mean, if I was here living on Social Security and I have a little tiny pension from the state of Alaska, I could live here, but it'd be touch and go a lot of ways. You know, I just a lot of things I couldn't do. I have a car over there, a motorcycle. You know, I live pretty well over there. If I want to go out to eat, we can go anywhere we want. You know, if I can travel, it's not a big deal. I have enough money to do that. Here, it'd be tricky. You know, even though I have decent retirement amount of money, I get about $2,000, about almost $3,000. But here, that's pretty borderline. Over there, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I'm thinking about. I think I told you I'm in the process of converting my minivan to a camper to I'm going to go out and get my toes wet and check out the nomad life, because it's darned expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's not the nomad life also is tricky, because you can't just stop anywhere with your minivan and live or stay. You got to pay sometimes, or find places off the beaten path. Alaska, if you lived in Alaska and you wanted a minivan around, you can camp anywhere in Alaska, anywhere, as long as there's not a no camping sign there. So every stream, every river has pull-offs, and you can pull your little van or your little, like I have a little RV I live in now, like a 20-foot long. It's a small Winnebago. I've got it fixed up as a man cave. You know, I've got a desk instead of a dinette. It's got a bed in the back. It's super comfortable. So I drive along somewhere, pull over by a bridge, pull down there, throw out my lawn chair, and of course put on my insect repellent.
Yeah.
And I can really be anywhere I want to be there. It's pretty cool. But you can't do that in most states. You got to find a place to camp and pay.
Yeah, I've been studying up. So it turns out that there's a lot of what they call boondocking, which is essentially free camping.
BLM land and stuff.
BLM lands, national forest lands, things like that.
I've heard of that.
And they're zero facilities, so it's not like you think of as a campground where you pull in and there's a tent site and it's all set up with a table and electricity in a lot of places and so on and so forth. It's not like that. So you got to bring it with you, and you have to, when you leave, you have to take it. It's leave no trace.
Right.
Even though you're in a vehicle, it's I imagine you can leave tire tracks, but other than that, you're not supposed to leave much of anything. There's a lot of people out there living that way because, on a fixed income, the cost of housing in the States now has gone crazy.
I know.
I saw house prices in the little town that I live in, Maine, from the time that COVID started to now have doubled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Just the same thing happened in this area. My son and his partner fixed up a house that was it was a house that she owned, but it was like a small 2-bedroom, nothing fancy, right in the neighborhood here. And they were going to do it, make it into an Airbnb. And then, of course, COVID hit, so they put it on the market instead. There were people that were, before they placed the ad, people would call up and say, "I'll give you 30 grand more or 40." I mean, they got a lot of money for it, basically, because it was in that time when people are desperately trying to find housing, and this area is a desirable area, Eugene, because of the colleges here and stuff,
Yeah.
So it's real estate. It's crazy. I can't even imagine owning property anywhere. I just can't. It's not within my reach at all.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I'm thinking. I thought I was going to go live in my van, but I decided to keep my house for a while in case I don't like it.
Because sure.
I couldn't sell my house. I live in it's almost, well, it's not real attractive, let's say. I couldn't net enough from my house to change my mind later.
Oh, well, then
I could
hang it.
afford to live in it, but I couldn't afford to take the money I sold from, that I got from selling it. I couldn't afford to go and live any place else with it.
Right.
Although I did figure out that I could probably subsidize apartment living.
Yeah. Well, I think
yeah.
that's always a possibility. I mean, even here, I just read a little article of cost of living places to retire on the West Coast, and Eugene is one of the places that they recommend because you can still get an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment here for about $1,000 a month, and that's unusual. Most other places, it's more like 1,500 or even higher. So $1,000, I could afford that out of my income and still have enough money to buy food and get, and drive around and stuff and play pickleball or whatever. So that, in that sense, it's attractive. But again, the thing about Oregon, the thing that I really like about Oregon is the Oregonian politics, Oregonian views about drugs. And there's going to be, I don't have the details, but there was some recent legislation passed that basically decriminalized drugs for the most part. And what they've actually done, there's a mandate to allow the use of, in a state supervised, I don't quite how to put this. You're going to be able to get guided psilocybin trips in this state, and it's going to be not only allowed by the state, but in a way subsidized. They're gonna make sure that there are people available to guide you, and that you can use this service to treat PTSD, especially PTSD. People are using ecstasy, MDMA, and getting amazing results from these people that come out of Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're just completely shattered. They can reconnect with the good things in life. I mean, it's amazing. And the biggest decision of my life was made under the influence of a psilocybin trip. I had visited. Now you remember this, Greg, because when we were living in the same house there, I went on a trip to the Pacific. I went to Washington, Seattle. We had a roommate who had just come from there, and she said, "You'd love it. Go." I had a vacation come up. I was in school at night doing computer programming classes, and Carol said, "Go out to Seattle. You can stay with one of my friends." And I did, and I fell in love with Seattle. I thought, "Oh yeah, this is where I want to be. Look at this beautiful ocean. People were really friendly." And so I made plans to go there, and it took a few years, but eventually I was ready to start planning to go. And then one night, my girlfriend and I and our good friend in the neighborhood, we did some psilocybin mushrooms together, and it was a beautiful night in New Hampshire. The stars were out, and we're out in the field, just how it is. You're just hugging the trees and everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. The stars were pulsing. It was just, and I said, I don't want to go to Seattle. If I go to Seattle, I'm going to have to get a regular job. It's expensive to live there. It is one of the more expensive places to live.
Yeah.
I want to go to Alaska. I read about it when I was a kid, and my gal said, "Yeah, we can do that. We let's go to Alaska." So we started saving money, and we ended up in Alaska under the influence. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
That night was pivotal. And if you read about people's their trips, their psilocybin experiences, they almost always have good things to say about them. They oftentimes have life-changing things involved with that experience. Like in my case, it's amazing. So that can happen here, and that's one of the reasons I think Oregon, if I was going to live anywhere in the States, it probably would be here. And largely because of that attitude that seems to be prevalent here.
That's definitely a good attitude to have open-mindedness and open-minded.
The Pacific Northwest. I mean, I read somewhere not long ago that in Seattle now, instead of people are doing heroin, right? Instead of busting them, throwing them in jail, which let's face it, that's not fixing the problem. It's making it worse. Now the police come and say, "Listen, if you're ready to go to counseling, we can help you. Otherwise, here's some clean needles. Try to be safe." That's what they're doing. Not throwing people in jail. That's Seattle. It's a sort of a local initiative, but that's where it starts, where we start realizing that people that are addicted to drugs have other issues in their lives that are making it hard for them to stay off of drugs. A normal person with a good social connection and love in his life and responsibility. I've done heroin. I love it. And I mean, I don't go out and search it out, but I tried it and I think, wow, I understand why people like to do this. But I'm a well-adjusted person with a lot of love in my life. I'm not going to become a freaking addict, but not everybody's that way.
Yeah. But here's an interesting segue for you. It seems like we share an addiction to pickleball.
Yes. Well, the thing is, I can play pickleball. And I can't play tennis anymore. Well, Janet and I had a little talk about this before you came on, and I got a little clear this. Pickleball, anybody can play. I tell people, if you want to play tennis, you got to learn to serve. That is the most difficult thing. If you can't serve, you really can't play tennis. But serving at pickleball, get the damn ball over the net. That's all you got to do. Hit it lightly, hit it high, hit it hard, whatever. Get it in the squares. It's easy. Then that's why we play when we're oldish,
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I'm thinking another segue is we're talking about pickleball, and the three of us share that passion. So, Dave, I'm wondering, what excites you at this point in your life as you are where you're at, as you're looking ahead and thinking about at this point in our lives, can we be excited about what's next and what's in our life?
Well, I mean, for me, what's exciting to me is seeing a place where I can get. I'm into this photography thing, heavy duty. I got a camera that I just paid $4,000 for, just the body, and I can track a bird. It'll lock onto the bird's eye, and as the bird's hopping around, it'll focus on his eye the whole damn time. I mean, it's just amazing stuff. So I get excited about birding trips. I get excited about pickleball still, although not to the same extent I used to be about tennis. So those are things I look forward to a lot. I still want to travel some, although anymore, traveling and the amount of time it takes to get places. I spend 24 hours in an airplane coming over here pretty much. It's brutal. So the travel part of it, but I want to go to Costa Rica. I want to, so those kind of things that still turn my crank, if you will.
When you were younger and you looked you looked ahead at this point in your life, how did you think about it? As far as, did you imagine?
How does any young person think? They don't think about it at all.
Other than, that it's going to be over, that there won't be anything to look forward to, or
I don't know if I ever felt that way. I always thought, oh my gosh, it was so far away. We used to think about when the year 2000 came. Oh, what would that be like, the year 2000? That's long gone now, So I don't know what I will say this. The time when I'm just left to my own thoughts and my own mind, I seldom look ahead, honestly. I look back a lot. I have a huge collection of photographs from the past, my family, my vacations, my this, my that. I look at those and I go, wow, that was cool. That was cool. So my focus has changed from looking ahead to looking back. I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things that's happened that's different now from what it used to be like. I don't really look ahead so much.
And if I put my psychologist hat on for a second, that is a piece that research has found around development at this point in our lives, is that we start to look back and kind of pull everything together, make peace with our past, appreciate our past, notice our past, and be thankful, hopefully.
I have had a great life. If I drop dead right now, I've had a great life. I've got a couple of regrets, but they're not serious. Yeah.
But that's part of this right now too, for us, is at this age and oldish, is, consolidating our lives, what's happened, what we have to let go of, wanting to ride your motorcycle all over the world, and now you have it in Thailand. So I'm just making that up. I don't know, but different goals that we might have had that we get to a certain point, it's like, okay, that's really just not going to happen.
Right. Well, that's when Greg talked about this thing going up Mount Everest. I mean, I cut my teeth, so to speak, on hiking and backpacking in the Adirondack Mountains in New York. Beautiful. I love that place, that whole area there. I can't go there anymore. I can't go up on top of Mount Marcy. When I first went up that mountain, I ran up it. It took me 2 hours or 3 hours. I just was, wow. Well, I don't know if I could get up to the top now, honestly. And so that part is sad that physically I'm limited, but I have other things I do. I have a lot of mental things I do that I like. I love reading and, again, photography and stuff that keeps me tuned in. I also I just now went for a walk in a little park near here, and there was a bunch of foot trails on it that I mapped. I do a lot of amateur mapping for an outfit called OpenStreetMap. It's kind of like, I describe it as the Wikipedia of the Google, like instead of Google Maps, which is proprietary, all that information is owned by Google. This is open source, and you can do anything with the data. Anybody can come and make any kind of map they want using our data, and it's fascinating. So I mapped out all the trails, put all the bridges in, all the slipways to launch your boat, and it's just a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. So I'll go on my motorcycle. I got a GPS running on the handlebar, got a camera hanging around my neck, and as I drive past gas stations or restaurants or intersections that have strange traffic controls, I snap photos of it, then I go back and put it on the map. It's fabulous. It's a lot of fun. And because I've always loved maps, I can actually see my contributions. I can download the data. I have a special program I can compile the data to put it on my own GPS. So when I'm driving with my GPS, I'm looking at data that I put on there. Wow. And that's cool. That's cool.
Very cool.
That is totally cool. I love that. So that's one of the things I do is I make these blasted maps. I used to sit in front of the computer 10, 12 hours a day adding data to Alaska. So we have these high quality satellite images that we can then overlay with the national, USGS topo maps that have all the names and stuff. So you trace in a river, add the name, trace in a glacier, add the peaks, add the mountain ranges, add the forest, add this lovely hours and hours. I don't do that so much anymore now, but I was really into it for a while.
Well, so the picture of a guy riding around on his motorcycle, getting a kick out of seeing spots that he put on a map. That's oldish. That is not elderly,
No, that is really cool. I tell you, I've tried to interest my friends in it. And when I say, look at this, their eyes just glaze over. I mean, people, you either have that thing for maps and mapping or you don't. And a lot of people just couldn't give a damn. They go on Google Maps, fine, shows me where I'm at, great, Me, I really like doing all that stuff, putting in park benches. And when I go to that park, I put those things on the map. I mean, I love it. It's great stuff. So that excites me.
Yeah. And it sounds like something that has evolved as far as interest, but also that something is also new, if I'm hearing correctly. So, which I think is part of being oldish in a healthy, positive way is, what excites us now, what is in our lives that brings satisfaction. And so it sounds like that's something for you. I have a question about, is there anything at this time in your life that scares you around being oldish?
I have to say, couple this with photography for just a second. It's my physical instability that scares me. I have this very expensive camera gear, and I originally started out wanting to be a landscape photographer. And that means the kind of person who goes to a waterfall and then looks all around it and tries to get the best angles and take a photo. Well, if I'm walking around on a rocky creek bed, I can't do it. I mean, I'm going to fall down, and it's scary. I was up on top of this waterfall a couple, 3 years ago, and I had a little slip like that. And I thought, my God, if I fall off this thing, and people may not find me for a week, I'd be down there broken.
Yeah. Yes.
So that physical infirmity, such as it is, I mean, I can play pickleball, but don't ask me to walk balance along a balance beam. I can't do that. Balance is tricky. I have to exercise. I do little things to keep my balance more or less intact. So other than that, though, no, everything else is fine. I don't have any big fears. So, I mean, other than just where am I going? What's out there? I have that question, and that's one of the things I think could help me with these psilocybin treatments I talk about. I think that's got to be in my future somewhere, for sure.
Yeah, so you're talking about what's out there, as in addition to this physical life that we're in currently.
Yeah. Well, no, not that so much, but what's coming down the road for me. I mean, I often wonder just how many more years do I have left. I'm pushing 80. My genetics, my family tends to be long lived. Although my dad died at age 60. He just wasn't. He wasn't healthy. He smoked cigarettes. I mean, he just didn't have a lifestyle that was good at all. His wife, my mom, lived to be 97. Her mom lived to be 98. I have an aunt who lived to be 106.
Wow.
So I figure my genes are good. As long as I don't get some devastating disease or something, I probably have 10, 20, possibly 20 years left. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's one of our questions is, what are you going to do for the next 20 years?
I think I'll find new things to do.
Yeah,
I got trips in my mind. I'd like to go back to Africa and do it with a camera this time. I'd like to go to Costa Rica and look at some birds. There's places this birding photography thing it's pretty involving. I really enjoy the hell out of it. When I'm in Thailand, the other part of that story about landscape photography. So I realized I couldn't do landscape photography. And I thought, well, hell, there's butterflies here. A lot of butterflies in Thailand. There's 1,000 varieties, I think. I said, if you can't shoot what you can shoot, photograph what you can photograph. And so my focus changed from waterfalls and forest and landscape to birds and butterflies. And man, it's so you get a picture, and you got to go look it up. Look it up, find out what it is, and that keeps my mind, I think, active, at least.
It's definitely an excitement that comes as you're talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of fun. And of course, I have to admit too that I only post my stuff. I'm not trying to make money I only post my stuff on Facebook. And of course, I really like it when people click the like button.
Yeah.
It's terrible to admit that, but that's true. I thrive on getting that positive feedback. Motivates me to go and get more photographs. I do them for myself. I sit around here at night sometimes. I'm having a beer or something. I get into the photos. I start looking at all my 5-star photos, and I think, wow, those are cool. So there's that. I've never been what I call a creative type. I can't paint or play an instrument or anything like that. But by golly, I can take photographs, and I sure enjoy that.
Yeah, I've been looking at them for years on Facebook, Dave, and they're really remarkable, and there's a fair amount of creativity that goes into that. So don't sell yourself short on the part.
I think it's cool and everything, but that is my creative output is finding and finding these. I'm not the kind of person that sits in a blind all day waiting for the special bird to come along. I'm sort of an opportunist, If it's there, I'll photograph it, and I'll go out and look. but I'm not going to spend 5 hours sitting in a blind waiting for a particular bird. I have been in blinds, and there's a lot of you can draw birds in that way. In fact, I was at this little spot, not a little spot, this wildlife refuge near here, and there were a couple ladies I ran into and started chatting with them. They said, "There's a sora here." A sora is like a little, how'd you call it? It's a swamp bird. They have long legs and they eat worms and stuff, right? Sora. And I had never seen one. I thought, wow. I got on my phone, I have this Audubon app that has bird songs in it. And I tried to attract them, right? So I look up Sora and I play it, and I play a couple times and play it a couple of times. All of a sudden, off in the distance, I hear Sora. Yes, where are you, baby? Come on over here. He didn't come over, but the sound of it is totally cool, I tell you. So
well, I just wanted to say that, what you were saying a little bit ago about being motivated by the 5 stars.
Yes.
Is being human. And I'm thinking about how much we need that in our whole lives, and including when we're oldish. And that often, I think, when people are oldish, they're not feeling like they're getting that they're not knowing where people are seeing them and appreciating something about who they are in the world. So the fact that you have found that you do that, to get that feedback is part of being human.
It's very important to me. If I put photos out there and my friends, people I really like and love and respect, and they say, "This is great," that turns my crank. It works for me. It's really nice. So I keep doing it.
I know we're heading towards ending. I wanted to ask if there's anything about being oldish that we haven't thought to bring up that you want to share.
What am I thinking of? Not much. I think it's I'm trying to get a knee replacement. I've been trying to do that for a couple of years. I think the only thing about being old that I didn't anticipate and that I don't enjoy is this physical limitations. I'm not strong. I give you another example. I was up on the Denali Highway last year. That's a 140-mile dirt road. It's just splendid scenery on every time you look back, and there's big mountains and glaciers to this side. And anyway, ran into a fella up there who had rented a very expensive RV in Anchorage and driven up there, and the hydraulics blew out on him. He had no brakes and no steering, so he's basically stranded. So he hitchhikes back to the last lodge about 30 miles down the road, and he gets on the phone, says, "Listen, you guys, I'm paying big money for this thing. Get up here and fix it." And I thought to myself, now what if that happened to me in my little RV? I can't even lift the tire. If my front wheel had a flat, I can't really physically, I probably could struggle with it, but lifting the tire off and putting the new tire from up on the roof on, I'm not sure I could even do that. Honestly, it's kind of beyond me. So other than that, no, not so much.
Well, it seems like you have a kind of an attitude about continuing on with adjustments. You make adjustments as you go along, but you haven't stopped dancing. And the picture that I have is that you're kind of swirling and dancing, through your life, and you talked about artistic expression, but the way that you're living your life right now is a real expression of who you are. That all of the stuff that you're talking about, living in Thailand, going taking pictures, doing the mapping, road trips, all of that stuff. It's like you're really painting a hell of a picture there, Dave.
The reason we went to Alaska was kind of that we thought we'd live off grid, and I thought I wanted to do that. And of course, when you've been raised the way we have with electricity and running water and everything, it's a big adjustment. But we ended up, Karen and I, her as Karen, KJ, Thule's mom. Yeah. We had a baby in the middle of the woods in a cabin, no running water, no phone, no nothing. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. And I bonded with him instantly. I was there for his birth. We had midwives. I mean, it was just freaking outstanding. But we left. We couldn't live I could not live in the woods. I can't live in the woods because I need people. There are people who live out in the goddamn boondocks in a little cabin by themselves. Man, I can't do that. I got to I got to have people. I got to chatter with them. I got to goof off with them. No, I can't live alone. Can't do it. So that was something I couldn't do. But we had Thule out there in the middle of nowhere, literally. It was literally in the middle of 2 miles off the end of the road, a dirt path, and in a little tiny cabin. And it was an amazing experience. Amazing. That was what Alaska was like for me at first, living off the grid and just experiencing that. Because we had talked about that kind of thing. You guys lived in Maine. Joseph came from a little place up in Maine. Everybody's tried it, seems like. But yeah. And in fact, my inspiration for Alaska was, aside from as a youth, being interested in hunting and reading these outdoor life magazines and stuff, was John McPhee's book, Coming into the Country, which I read in Carol's little cabin there in Freedom, Maine, back when we lived together, back there I read that book and I thought, wow, oh yeah, I got to go there.
The power of literature, and especially John McPhee. Well, it sounds like you enjoy talking to people. I'm glad that we've been able to talk together and learn.
I enjoy talking with people. That's pretty obvious, I guess. And it's been great talking with you guys too. Really
we hope you'll come back and talk with us some more, Dave.
I'll come back. Come on, if you tell me, oh, Dave, we want to have you, you can have me. Don't worry about it.
All right.
I get best of luck with the Oldish podcast. I hope it goes over big time. And it was great meeting you, Greg. Great seeing you after all these years. It's just astounding. I mean,
it's been fun. It's actually 40 years since we've seen each other, and it was like last Tuesday.
Okay, be good, guys. Thanks.
Okay. You too. Thanks, Dave.
Really fun. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep.
That's it for now. Thanks to Dave for joining us today. You can find links to some of Dave's photographs and to OpenStreetMap in the show notes, as well as to Janet and Greg's websites. You can support our podcast and the fight against Duchenne muscular dystrophy by buying an Everest to End Duchenne t-shirt or commemorative flag, or one or more of the books Greg has written at Greg's website. Tune in next week when we present the second half of our conversation with Chris Balch about his adventures in oldish activism. We had such an interesting time talking with Chris about oldish adventuring for a cause. We kept on talking and have a whole other episode about his engagement with oldish political and environmental activism. How is it different now compared to the 60s and 70s? How does it feel that after all these years we still have to stand up for what we think is right? Give a listen to find out next week. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please tell a friend. If you'd like to hear more, check out our other episodes, follow us wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts, and come back weekly. And please leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts.